Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, suddenly overtaken by the thought of death? Perhaps it strikes you unexpectedly, the realization that one day you will no longer exist in this form, in this life, as the person you are right now. It is a terrifying feeling, is it not? Even though we all understand that death is inevitable, most of us tend to push the thought away, avoiding it as much as possible. We live as if we have endless time, yet deep down we know that the clock is always ticking. Interestingly, even individuals who believe in an afterlife, reincarnation, or some form of continued existence still experience fear when contemplating death. If we genuinely believe that death is not the end, then why do we experience such apprehension? Shouldn't we feel at peace knowing that something greater awaits us on the other side? The truth is, the fear of death goes beyond the mere question of what happens afterward. It is not just about whether or not our soul continues. It encompasses our attachments, our experiences, our identity, and the unknown. In this discussion, we will dissect these fears in a poor way that could potentially transform your perspective on death forever. We will explore what exactly it is that we fear, whether death truly signifies the end, why we suffer profoundly in its presence, and most importantly, why we do not actually need to fear it at all. By the end, you may find a sense of peace regarding death that you never thought possible. So, what exactly are we afraid of? When people express their fear of death, they refer to a multitude of concerns, all wrapped up in one overwhelming thought. Some fear the physical experience of dying, worrying that it will be painful or terrifying. Others dread the idea of non-existence, of simply vanishing into nothingness. Some focus more on the pain of leaving their loved ones behind, while others are anxious about the unknown. What if anything comes next? One of the most profound fears surrounding death is the fear of the unknown. Human beings crave certainty. We prefer to know what will happen so that we can prepare for it. However, death is the one event we can never fully predict. Even with spiritual or religious beliefs, there remains a part of us that wonders, what if everything I believe is wrong? What if there is nothing on the other side? What if I simply cease to exist? Such uncertainty can incite deep anxiety, making it challenging for people to fully accept the concept of death. Another significant fear is the fear of pain and suffering. Most individuals are not primarily afraid of being dead. Rather, they are apprehensive about the process of dying. Will it be slow? Will it hurt? Will I be conscious of what is happening? Our minds tend to conjure images of painful illnesses or tragic accidents. However, it is interesting to note that many who have undergone near-death experiences report an overwhelming sense of peace rather than pain. Many describe feelings of floating outside of their bodies, detachment from physical suffering, and even encounters with love and light. Yet, because we do not know for certain what our own death will feel like, the fear persists. Beyond the fear of physical pain lies the fear of loss. Death signifies leaving behind everything and everyone we know. The notion of never seeing our loved ones again, of never experiencing life as we currently understand it, can be unbearable. We spend our entire lives forming relationships, creating deep connections, and accumulating memories. The idea of all of that coming to a conclusion is heartbreaking. However, perhaps we should reconsider our perspective. What if death is not a separation, but rather a transition? What if we do not lose the people we love, but instead reconnect with them in a different form? Additionally, there exists a hidden fear that many may not recognize, the fear of being forgotten. We all want to believe that our lives matter, that we have made an impact on the world. However, with the passage of time, generations fade, and ultimately, our names may not endure. Such a thought can be disconcerting, but perhaps the essence of our impact lies not in whether our names are remembered, but in the energy and love we leave behind. The way we touch the lives of others might be what endures. This brings us to the core question. Does death truly signify the end? If death did imply the final conclusion, then fear would be understandable. But is that genuinely the case? Almost every culture and spiritual tradition throughout history has posited that death is not the concluding point. Whether through beliefs in heaven, reincarnation, enlightenment, or the soul's continued existence in some form, there is a universal consensus that life does not simply cease at the moment of death. Even in the realm of science, nothing is ever truly extinguished. One of the fundamental laws of physics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. If our consciousness is a form of energy, then it does not simply vanish. It must transition somewhere. But where? That is the mystery we have yet to unravel. Even more fascinating are the countless accounts of near-death experiences. Thousands of people from diverse backgrounds and belief systems have reported eerily similar experiences when they were declared clinically dead, floating outside their bodies, seeing bright lights, encountering deceased loved ones, and feeling overwhelming peace and love. Many of these individuals, including those who were there, once skeptical, return without fear of death. Furthermore, there are cases of children recalling past life memories with remarkable accuracy. These instances have been studied extensively, and some of the details they provide are so precise that they cannot simply be dismissed as coincidence. If death were genuinely the final chapter, how can we explain these occurrences? Might it be that life is a continuous cycle, and we are merely transitioning from one state of existence to another? Even if we accept that death is not ultimately the end, it does not alleviate the pain of losing someone. Grief is one of the most profound emotions we endure, and no degree of spiritual belief can entirely eradicate the sorrow of saying goodbye. But why do we experience such deep suffering when confronted with death? A significant aspect is attachment. We grow attached to the people we love, our relationships, and our identities in this world. When someone dies, it feels as though they are wrenched away from us. Even if we believe they exist in some form, the inability to see, touch, or converse with them induces an intense sense of loss. Yet, what if death is not truly a loss, but rather a shift? What if the people we love remain with us in ways we have yet to comprehend? Another contributor to our suffering is society's attitude towards death. In many cultures, death is regarded as tragic and permanent. Funerals are typically solemn affairs, and conversations about death are often avoided unless absolutely necessary. Conversely, in some cultures, death is celebrated as a transition. For instance, in Mexico, the Day of the Dead is a joyous occasion for honoring and connecting with ancestors. Could it be that our fear of death is partially a result of how we have been conditioned to perceive it? Additionally, there is the fear of regret. When we lose someone, we often question whether we expressed everything we needed to say, whether we spent adequate time with them, or if they truly knew how much we loved them. When we contemplate our own death, we may ask ourselves if we genuinely lived or if we will depart from this world laden with regrets. Perhaps the fear of death serves as a reminder to live more fully while time allows. So, how do we relinquish our fear of death? The answer lies in altering our perspective. If we cease to view death as an ending and instead perceive it as a transition, we can diminish its grip on us. Rather than fearing the unknown, we can trust that life continues in some form beyond our current understanding. One primary reason we fear death is that we are profoundly attached to life itself. We cling to our identities, relationships, and experiences, believing they define us. Yet life is a dynamic flow, perpetually changing like the seasons or the tides. Nothing in nature resists change. However, we often struggle with the concept of letting go. What if we view death not as a loss of life, but as a transition into another form of existence? Spiritual traditions teach that the sense of self, of I, is an eternal illusion. We are not merely this one body experiencing a single life. We are a part of something infinite. Consciousness does not die, it only transforms. Consider the nature of dreams. While dreaming, everything feels incredibly real. Yet upon waking, we come to understand it differently. What if death is merely waking up from this life into another state? Ultimately, the best approach to overcome our fear of death is to embrace living fully. When we are present, when we love deeply, and when we wholly embrace life, we naturally diminish our fear. Because in the end, the fear of death is truly a fear of not having lived to the fullest.